How do people misunderstand the free grace gospel presentation? Hi, I'm Ken Yates of Grace Evangelical Society, and I'd like to discuss that issue with you for a few minutes. In my experience, traveling around different places and speaking about free grace issues, I find that people misunderstand what the free grace gospel is. And in fact, it's not just from the person in the pew. It's also leaders within Christian denominations. I was just recently in a conversation with some pastors, and it was interesting their take on the free grace gospel. They mentioned a lot of names that you're familiar with, if you're familiar with the history of the free grace theology, such as Schofield and Louis Sperry Chafer, who was the first president of Dallas Seminary, and Charles Ryrie and Zane Hodges. So they know the names, and they point out, for example, that Chafer was one of the sources of what would later become the free grace theology that we have in Grace Evangelical Society. But when these people talk about it, what they say is that these guys, including Zane Hodges, and I found this very bizarre, said things like, well, all you have to do is make a decision for Christ, or say the sinner's prayer, or invite Jesus into your heart. Or if they go back even further, they'll say, oh, the revivals of the 1800s and 1900s, they said, all you have to do is walk the sawdust trail. And that's just a phrase that they would have sawdust on the floors of these tents. And all you had to do was walk down the aisle, walk the sawdust trail, and you would be saved. And so their view of the free grace gospel is that is what all these teachers are teaching. That to be saved from hell, you just got to do one of these things in order to be saved. And of course, they call it easy believism or cheap grace. And in their view, the opponents of free grace theology, what they say is, no, they're wrong because they don't require turning from sin or making Jesus Lord of your life or acknowledging that he is God and that you're going to give him your life to take control of or something like that. Or you have to persevere in good works to the end in order to be saved. But it's striking to me that the way they describe the free grace gospel in these ways about making a decision or inviting Jesus into your heart, here at Grace Evangelical Society, we don't say any of those things. I knew Zane Hodges fairly well, and trust me, he did not present the gospel that way. One of the things that's missing from many of these conversations about the free grace gospel presentation as it is understood by those who oppose it is they don't talk about the assurance of salvation. That the free grace gospel presentation is, we believe that you receive eternal life when you believe in Jesus Christ for that gift, and you can never lose it. These people who talk about these revivals, for example, and say you had to walk the sawdust trail or you had to invite Jesus into your heart, I know that many of those people involved in those revivals would say, but if you don't clean up your life afterwards, you weren't saved. And so these examples of the free grace gospel are not the free grace gospel as I've always been taught, or as Grace Evangelical Society has been taught. Just listen when you hear people who oppose the free grace gospel presentation. I think you'll find the same thing that I do. They'll talk about all these other things that they require a decision or a sinner's prayer or whatever the case may be. You got to walk the aisle. And in their mind, that's what the free grace gospel presentation is. But it's not. The free grace gospel presentation is you don't have to walk an aisle. You don't have to say a sinner's prayer. None of those things ever saved anybody. You simply believe that Jesus gives you eternal life that you can never lose. It's just amazing to me that when you hear people discuss free grace, in my experiences anyway, that's not what you hear. So just remember, when you hear people opposing free grace theology, a lot of times, I would say most of the time, they don't even understand what it is that the free grace gospel is. If you like this video, I would ask that you would press the like button. And if you really liked it, press the subscribe button. And continue to get these videos by Grace Evangelical Society. And remember, keep grace in focus.